Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're plunging into a case that has, well, captivated and terrified people for decades, the infamous Dyatlov Pass incident. For many of you, the name itself probably conjures images of that chilling, unsolved mystery surrounding the 1959 deaths, 9 experienced hikers in the desolate Ural Mountains. And the official conclusion? It offered a little comfort, really, or clarity, and compelling natural force. A phrase so vague, so unsatisfying, it practically invited a world of speculation. It just fueled this enduring enigma.
Indeed, that official pronouncement was almost an anti-conclusion, wasn't it? It left such a vast interpretive void that the human imagination, especially when you're confronted with inexplicable tragedy like that, was more than eager to fill it. And we've seen theories ranging from, well, rare avalanches and infrasound-induced panic, all the way to clandestine military experiments and even, cryptid encounters. The enduring fascination comes precisely from that lack of a concrete, universally accepted explanation.
Absolutely. And for this particular deep dive, we're not actually attempting to solve the historical Dyatlov Pass mystery itself. Instead, we've been given a unique and frankly utterly unsettling piece of source material that offers its own terrifying hypothesis. It's called the Dyatlov Tapes, Voices from the Mountain. Now, this isn't some dry historical document, no. This source presents itself as a detailed, found footage narrative. It meticulously blends the investigative intensity you get with true crime with these deeply disturbing, almost supernatural elements that, well, they make for truly chilling horror.
And it purports to offer a previously unheard perspective, drawing on what it claims are lost tapes, mysteriously discovered in a forgotten KGB archive. So right away, that sets a compelling and potentially dangerous premise, suggesting forbidden knowledge, suppressed truths.
Precisely. So our mission here, for you, our listener, is to meticulously unpack the narrative presented within the Dyatlov tapes. We're going to dissect its specific chilling details, explore the horrifying implications it lays out, and really understand the unique facts it brings to this notorious cold case.
Exactly. The goal is to extract the core insights, the surprising facts as presented in the specific account, and to analyze the underlying themes of psychological terror and the unknown that this singular document reveals. It's about dissecting the very architecture of the horror narrative it constructs, asking, how does this fictional account redefine a known mystery and what new anxieties does it tap into?
So for you, our listener, the central question for this deep dive really is, what new terrifying facts about the Dyatlov Pass incident does this specific account lay bare? And what do they imply about the nature of the unknown when viewed through this chilling new lens? Let's begin our descent. Okay, so the very first detail we encounter in the Dyatlov tapes, it immediately sets this ominous, almost preordained tone. The source kicks off with a present-day framing device. It introduces us to Emma, a true crime podcaster, and her momentous discovery happens on March 17th, 2025. So this isn't just, an accidental rummage through old boxes. The tapes were found in a KGB archive crate, which inherently implies something was classified, hidden away, and potentially, well, very dangerous.
It's a classic setup, isn't it? Designed to cultivate instant mystery and dread. The KGB archive isn't just a place, it's a symbol. It immediately connects this fictional discovery to the real-world secrecy and speculation that has always surrounded the original Dyatlov incident. It frames Emma's find as less of a historical excavation and more of an unwitting unearthing of something deeply suppressed, something that was meant to remain hidden for a very unsettling reason. This creates an immediate expectation of forbidden knowledge and, latent danger.
And then there's the label on the crate itself, Sasasan, which translates to Nature Abhors a Vacuum. Yeah, that's not just a dusty label, is it? It feels almost like an ancient warning, a cryptic clue embedded in the very container of these tapes. What do you make of that phrase in this context? It seems to imply something beyond just a natural principle.
That phrase is incredibly potent, isn't it? On a superficial level, sure, it refers to a scientific principle. It suggests that natural systems resist emptiness, they'll always strive to fill a void. But in the context of a horror narrative, especially one dealing with the unexplained, it takes on a far more philosophical and frankly deeply unsettling meaning. It hints that if there's a void, if there's an absence, something will inevitably rush in to fill it, and that something might be anything but benign or natural. It immediately connects to the idea that the entity or force we're about to encounter isn't just a random occurrence, but perhaps something that fills a cosmic or terrestrial vacuum, or maybe even creates one, by consuming what was previously there. It's a chilling philosophical underpinning to the horror.
Absolutely. And this found footage narrative immediately establishes a stark contrast to what we thought we knew. We, the listeners, are likely already familiar with the bare bones of the real Dyatlov Pass incident. And the source reiterates these chilling known facts. 9 students died on Kolotyakul in 1959. They were found frozen, yes, but with deeply unsettling, almost impossible injuries, things like missing tongues and eyes gouged.
And that's a critical narrative choice, because those specific grotesque details are precisely what have always pushed the real-world case beyond conventional explanations, pushed it into the realm of the truly macabre. They hint at a savagery that goes far beyond what mere exposure or, animal attacks could inflict. The source intelligently leverages this existing knowledge to amplify its own fictional horrors.
Precisely. And the source then directly contrasts these known horrifying facts with the official report, which, as we noted, just declared an compelling natural force. But here's where Emma's narration delivers the first truly crucial revelation from the dates right at the outset. She says, but these tapes prove they were hunted.
That's a powerful statement, isn't it? It immediately reframes the entire tragedy. It makes us wonder, if the tapes prove they were hunted, what specific details does this source provide to fundamentally shift our understanding? Shift it from a natural disaster or even a human-on-human crime to something far more deliberate, intelligent, and terrifying. It immediately tells us this isn't just a rehash of old theories. It's positing a very active, intelligent, and malevolent force. It's like a gauntlet thrown down to the historical narrative.
And the narrative wastes absolutely no time in plunging us into that terrifying past. Emma clicks play, and we're instantly transported. Day 3 on the mountain. The initial voices we hear belong to Igor. He sounds cheerful, almost jovial, despite the deep snow. He speaks of hot springs and vodka, these almost mundane human aspirations. It's this brief, fleeting moment of normalcy, of simple desires, a typical adventure feel. It sets up such a poignant contrast.
It's a masterful move in horror storytelling. You establish the protagonists as relatable, hopeful, even lighthearted individuals. They're embarking on a seemingly ordinary, albeit challenging adventure. This allows you, the listener, to connect with them on a human level, to feel their optimism before the narrative inexorably drags them and you into the abyss of dread. The mention of everyday comforts like hot springs and vodka, it paints a vivid picture of their shared humanity. It highlights their vulnerability to the unnatural horror that's about to engulf them. It's the calm before the storm, really, a setup for maximum impact.
But that normalcy just shatters almost instantly, doesn't it? Lyudmila's tense interruption cuts through the cheer like a knife. Igor, why is the forest silent? And then, almost immediately, the first truly eerie sound, a faint crunch like footsteps on ice. It's subtle, yet absolutely chilling.
That cold open is brilliantly constructed. It immediately immerses you in the unfolding horror. The silent forest, that's a classic, deeply unsettling trope. Nature, which should be alive with myriad sounds, wind, rustling leaves, Animal calls it unnaturally quiet. It signals a profound disruption, a stillness that is itself a harbinger of doom before anything is even seen. And that crunch, it's specific, it's footsteps. It's not wind or naturally shifting ice. It suggests a deliberate, methodical approach from something unseen, something stalking them. This instantly shifts the tone from adventure to a creeping dread of being watched, pursued, or worse, something entirely alien that demands unnatural quiet. It's the first tangible evidence that something else is present, something fundamentally wrong with their environment.
Okay, so from that chilling quiet, we move into the first full tape, tape 1, chronicling the ascent. Even as they attempt to establish camp, the anomalies begin. Dyatlov, the group's leader, he issues the command to set camp here. It's an attempted order at exerting control in this harsh, unforgiving environment. But then, Zenaida delivers a report that just defies all logic and intuition.
Indeed. Zenaida's observation is the first major, undeniable red flag about the nature of the threat they face. She reports, minus 30 degrees C, but my skin is burning, like sunburn. It's a complete sensory contradiction.
Imagine that. Extreme cold, temperatures that should be freezing you to the bone, yet a searing, painful, burning sensation on your skin, almost as if you've been exposed to intense sunlight. That defies basic physics as we understand it, doesn't it? It's immediately clear that whatever's causing this phenomenon, it's not a natural occurrence. It's something fundamentally alien to their environment and, well, to our understanding of the world.
And a striking detail here is the immediate introduction of a thermal anomaly. This isn't just cold, it's an unnatural cold that paradoxically induces a burning sensation. This unique characteristic immediately hints at an entity that possesses the power to manipulate temperature, not just react to it. It weaponizes something as fundamental as heat and cold. It establishes a core characteristic of the entity that we'll see reiterated and escalated throughout the tapes. It makes the threat incredibly visceral, affecting the hikers on a physiological level right from the very beginning. The source also mentions low hem pulses and radiostatic, which add to this unsettling atmosphere, suggesting a disruptive, unnatural energy field, a kind of electromagnetic distortion that accompanies this thermal shift. It paints a picture of a presence that warps the very fabric of reality around it.
And as if that wasn't unsettling enough, Sasha then lets out this panicked exclamation. Lights! Above the tree line, they're dripping. Dyatlov, ever the rational leader, attempts to dismiss it. Northern lights, he says, grasping for a familiar explanation.
But Lyudmila, again, provides that chilling correction. Her whispered observation, "They're wrong, lights don't breathe," is incredibly insightful. This makes us wonder about perception versus reality. Dyatlov tries to find a logical, natural explanation for what they're seeing, which is a common human coping mechanism, right? In the face of the unknown. But Lyudmila's observation points to an organic, living quality that just should not exist in an atmospheric phenomenon. This breathing light isn't just an optical illusion. It's a key indicator of something alien, something animated and alive in a way lights should never be. It transforms a visual anomaly into a terrifying conscious presence. And the dripping detail is equally unsettling. What kind of light has a viscous quality, almost like melting wax or some strange fluid? It evokes a sense of organic matter, not ephemeral aurora. It's the visual signature of something profoundly unnatural.
And the combination of these unsettling anomalies during the ascent is this ominous, inescapable sound, a wet, rhythmic thump like a giant heart. A giant heart. That's not just wind or ice shifting. It sounds alive and impossibly massive. It immediately adds a biological, monstrous element to the lights they're seeing, imbuing them with a tangible, horrifying source.
Yeah, looking at the broader picture, this sound design brief is absolutely crucial for how the horror is conveyed and escalated. The progression from the unnatural cold to the breathing lights and then to an enormous rhythmic heartbeat, it creates a narrative escalation. It suggests the entity isn't just a visual or thermal anomaly, but something with immense physical presence and a disturbing, unnatural physiology. A wet, rhythmic thump implies not just colossal mass, but a living internal process. It speaks to a creature of truly immense scale, with a heartbeat so profound and pervasive that it can be heard over the sounds of the harsh mountain environment. This detail is specifically designed to amplify dread and solidify the idea that they are being stalked by something truly monstrous, something alien, and something with a terrifyingly physical reality. It's no longer a mere environmental hazard, it's a living, breathing, colossal threat closing in.
Okay, so from the escalating dread of the ascent, we transition to tape 2. And this is where the horror truly breaches their perceived sanctuary, the tent. The sounds described immediately set the scene. The constant howling wind pressing against the thin fabric, the nervous fumbling with tent zippers, and the disorienting, distant, distorted radio chatter in Russian. All of it just amplifies the sense of isolation and vulnerability.
The tent is meant to be their refuge, isn't it? Their most immediate safe space from the elements. A fragile but essential barrier against the unforgiving mountain. But the source immediately tells us that sanctuary is about to be violated, not just physically, but deeply psychologically. It's the ultimate violation when your safe space becomes the stage for horror.
Exactly. And then Rustam delivers this frantic, almost disbelieving warning. Something's outside. It's copying Nikolai's voice. Now, let's really unpack this. This is not just a physical threat aiming to tear through the tent. This is a deeply psychological assault. The entity is intelligent enough to mimic human speech, to use familiarity, to use the very voices of their companions against them. That, to me, is a whole new level of terror. It exploits trust.
A particularly chilling element here is the entity's method of attack. It moves beyond brute force to psychological manipulation through vocal mimicry. This immediately highlights an intelligent, deceptive predator. This isn't merely an animal driven by instinct, it's something that comprehends social dynamics and human vulnerabilities. It understands the power of a familiar voice to lull, to disarm, to create internal conflict. This cunning makes the entity far more sinister than a simple monster. It's a predator that plays with its prey before the kill, eroding their unity and trust from within.
And the deceptive call it makes from outside, in Nikolai's perfectly mimicked voice, is chilling to the core.
Warn me! The simplicity of the plea, yet the horror it implies is just masterful.
And this is where Rustam's horrifying realization sets in, a moment of profound terror. That's not Nikolai. Nikolai's beside me. The repeated plea, warn me, is incredibly significant. It clarifies the entity's core motivation, tying back to Zenaita's burning skin in the cold. It reinforces the entity's unusual, almost vampiric relationship with temperature. It's a predator that understands its prey's vulnerabilities and uses their own companions against them, not just physically but emotionally. It's not just a random cry for help. It's a lure, a demand, and a chilling reveal of its primary need. This makes the entity far more sinister than a simple monster. It's a cunning hunter with a very specific and terrifying hunger. The manipulation is designed to create confusion and panic, to shatter their solidarity before the physical assault even truly begins. And then the horror becomes incredibly physical and visceral. We hear the sickening sound of the tent fabric re-peeping open, followed by Nikolai's gurgling scream that's the unmistakable sound of a violent, close-up attack, isn't it? The sanctity of their shelter utterly destroyed.
It absolutely is. It's the sound of a desperate, intimate struggle. A life being extinguished brutally and without mercy. It's designed to be jarring and horrifying, shattering any lingering sense of safety or hope. The sound design here is crucial to making the attack feel immediate and inescapable, drawing you, the listener, right into the horrific scene. It's not a distant roar, it's right there, inside their fragile sanctuary.
And as the entity gets closer, its true voice emerges, an unnaturally deep Jiralal. But the most chilling detail for me, and one that echoes earlier anomalies, is the accompanying sound of sizzling snow.
The sizzling snow is paramount. This detail forces us to consider the entity's composition and its destructive power on a fundamental level. It directly illustrates its core characteristic, a being that generates extreme, unnatural heat. Imagine that sound in the sub-zero quiet of the Urals, not wind, not cracking ice, but the hiss and pop of snow melting from an unseen, intensely hot presence. It tells you this creature isn't just existing in the cold, it's generating a heat so extreme it instantly vaporizes its surroundings, defying the laws of thermodynamics. This is where the thermal anomaly we discussed earlier becomes not just a strange sensation, but a tangible destructive force. It's a core characteristic that defines the unique terror of this entity. It weaponizes something as fundamental as heat, making the very air around it dangerous, boiling away the frozen world in its wake.
It's a signature, impossible event that screams unnatural force, even louder than just extreme heat. It tells you that the laws of physics simply don't apply to this thing. It strips away any sense of rational understanding the hikers or Emma or us might cling to. It's an immediate, undeniable sign that something truly alien has entered their world, something that literally redefines reality with its presence. Following the terrifying breach of the tent and the brutal attack within, Tape 3 plunges us into the desperate, harrowing flight of a sole survivor. We hear Lyudmila, alone and whispering into the recorder, narrating this frantic, desperate escape through the deep snow. And it's here that she makes a critical, terrifying realization about the entity's true nature, a revelation that ties together all the thermal anomalies we've heard so far. It hates the cold, but loves our heat.
So this is where the puzzle pieces really click into place, isn't it? The strange thermal anomalies, the burning skin, the repeated warm me please. This clarifies the fundamental motivation behind the mimicry and the entity's destructive thermal properties. It explains why it's attacking them with such relentless consuming power. It's not just a random monster. It's a predator driven by a specific, primal, and utterly alien need, our very body heat. This makes the horror incredibly personal, as our own life force becomes its target.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Our very existence, our inherent warmth, makes us targets. That's a terrifying revelation. It connects its motive directly to the very warmth of life itself. It's not just hunting for food or sport. It's hunting for a fundamental essence that we possess, turning our most basic biological function into our ultimate vulnerability. It's parasitic relationship of the most horrific kind.
And what's truly chilling here is how the source uses these extreme, grotesque details to convey the entity's sheer destructive power. Lyudmila's account of what happened to Sasha is utterly horrific. It touched Sasha, he melted, eyes boiling. This isn't merely dying from exposure or typical freezing death. These aren't the effects of a conventional predator. They describe a rapid, catastrophic transfer of heat, consistent with the thermal anomaly and sizzling snow details we discussed earlier. It makes the threat incredibly visceral and unique. It's not just killing them, it's consuming them in a grotesque, fundamental way, boiling them from within, dissolving their very being. It forces you to truly visualize a body being unmade, not just killed, but fundamentally unraveled by an external force. It's deeply, deeply unsettling because it speaks to a form of predation we can barely comprehend.
And then, amidst her desperate flight, she recounts Dyatlov's final, desperate command. He had cut the tent open, not from the crushing weight of the storm, as the official narrative might suggest, but from the encroaching, terrifying light. And his final instruction, whispered in a moment of ultimate terror, was equally chilling. Told us, run, not from the storm, from the light.
This is a pivotal moment. It fundamentally shifts the entire understanding of the incident, not just within the narrative, but for you, the listener. Dyatlov's final command clearly states that their flight was not about surviving the elements, the blizzards, the brutal cold. It was about escaping a specific malevolent presence. The light is no longer just an abstract observation from tape 1, something dripping and breathing, but is explicitly identified as the source of the terror, the very thing they must flee from. It confirms that the natural environment was merely the stage for an unnatural horror, and that the elements themselves were secondary to the true monstrous threat. This redefines the entire tragedy.
And then we reach Lyudmila's final agonizing moments. We hear the sound of close, wet gasping as the entity unmistakably nears, the terror, the desperation. It's almost palpable in her voice. And then the entity's voice, now a horrifying echo, mimicking Lyudmila, repeats that chilling phrase, "You do me all, I found you."
That is just a devastating narrative choice. The entity isn't merely mimicking a voice, it's now using a victim's own voice to announce its impending, inescapable attack. It's a truly twisted form of psychological torture, turning a familiar sound into the ultimate harbinger of doom. It shows a malevolence that revels in its prey's despair. It's not just about the kill, but about the profound dread preceding it.
And Lyudmila's final, desperate, broken scream, a fragmented warning. It wears our skin. It's before she's abruptly cut off by the horrifying sound of splintering bones, followed by the tape cutting to static. The idea of it wearing our skin, that takes the mimicry to a whole new level of profound dread, doesn't it? It suggests a physical, horrific transformation or assimilation far beyond simple vocal impersonation.
That last desperate cry raises a chilling and fundamental question about the entity's ultimate goal. Is it simply consuming warmth? Or is there a deeper, more insidious purpose behind its mimicry and physical manifestation? Is it truly assimilating them, taking on their forms, perhaps building some kind of ghastly composite? Or merely creating a ghastly illusion for its own predatory design? The splintering bones provides an incredibly visceral, abrupt, and absolute end to her recording, leaving you, the listener, with a stark, terrifying image of what happened. There's no ambiguity about her fate, there was no escape, only a horrifying, bone-crushing demise that hints at the entity's immense physical power. It's a final, horrifying exclamation mark on the brutality of this force.
The horror of the tapes, as Emma quickly discovers, doesn't stay confined to the past. No. In the segment aptly named The Revelation, the terrifying truth spills over into Emma's present-day reality. It proves that some horrors aren't bound by time. The immediate chilling confirmation of Lyudmila's fate in this fictional narrative is delivered bluntly. Lyudmila's body was never found. While this keeps the specific details of her end ambiguous in terms of concrete discovery, it chillingly confirms her disappearance and hints at something far more sinister than a simple death.
This immediately creates a profound sense of unresolved, lingering threat. If a body is never found, if there's no closure, there's always the terrifying possibility that something else happened beyond simple death, or that the entity has not only killed but taken or transformed the victim. It directly ties into Lyudmila's final panicked words about the entity wearing our skin. It suggests a form of consumption or assimilation that leaves no trace, creating a permanent void.
And then Emma, our present-day investigator, starts noticing alarming present-day observations in her own studio. She states, "My studio's 30 degrees Cs. That's unnaturally warm, especially if it's meant to be a cold day, and it directly echoes the entity's thermal characteristics we heard throughout the tapes. It's not just a memory, it's a physical manifestation right now."
What's truly unsettling here is how the source brings the horror directly into the listener's perceived reality through Emma's experience. The abnormal warmth in her studio is an undeniable, persistent manifestation of the entity's presence, and its defining characteristic, its extreme heat generation, and its craving for warmth. It's no longer a historical anomaly confined to a distant mountain. It's an active, present force encroaching into her personal space. It's a physical signature that cannot be ignored.
But it gets even more alarming, even more impossible. She also observes snow's melting uphill outside, which is just a clear physical impossibility under normal circumstances. This takes the concept of unnatural phenomena to another level entirely. So the anomalies aren't confined to the capes themselves. They're manifesting now in Emma's present, defying all natural laws. The uphill snowmelt is such a bizarre, impossible detail that it screams unnatural force even louder than just extreme heat. It suggests the entity bends reality itself.
It absolutely does. This is a detail designed not just to shock, but to fundamentally break your understanding of physics and natural order. It reinforces that this entity isn't just warm or a source of heat. It manipulates the very laws of reality around it, creating impossible phenomena. It's a signature impossible event that screams its unnatural presence and its sheer power. It's a direct, undeniable challenge to the natural world. It signifies that the entity's influence transcends mere physical proximity. It warps and distorts its environment, creating a localized pocket of impossible physics wherever it manifests.
And as if physical manifestations and environmental distortions weren't enough, Emma then makes a discovery that's far more personal, far more targeted, and truly chilling. A photo of her own door with distinct frost patterns spelling "Warm Me."
A crucial narrative choice here is the escalation of the entity's communication. From mimicking voices on a distant tape, it progresses to physically manifesting a message in frost on Emma's own door. This demonstrates a terrifying persistence, intelligence, and an unnerving ability to cross the boundaries of time and medium. The repeated phrase, "warm me," underscores its core need and its relentless predatory pursuit of warmth. It confirms that its intention is focused, deliberate, and now alarmingly direct. This isn't just a random occurrence, it's a deliberate act, a chilling warning, or perhaps even a terrifying invitation to its new, unwitting target. It's a declaration of intent.
Which brings us to Emma's terrifying, unavoidable truth. The conclusion she can no longer deny. It followed the tapes. It's here. And it's hungry for warmth. The realization must have been absolutely soul-crushing.
And when we connect this to the broader design of the narrative, the source expertly uses the classic horror trope, doesn't it? The cursed object, or cursed knowledge. The tapes aren't merely a record of past events. They are a conduit, a lure, or perhaps even a portal. The entity is not confined to the desolate mountains of 1959. It's a present and immediate danger to Emma, and by extension to anyone who interacts with the information contained in the tapes. This detail is designed to create a direct, encroaching sense of threat to you, the listener. If Emma, the archivist of the tapes, is susceptible simply by listening, then by engaging with this deep dive, you too are theoretically exposed. It transforms a historical mystery into an immediate, encroaching, and deeply personal horror, blurring the lines between past and present, fiction, and unsettling possibility.
And that leads us directly to the chilling outro, where everything culminates in this devastating final sequence. We hear Emma's whispered, desperate plea to burn the tapes and don't listen to before she's abruptly cut off by the violent sound of the tape recorder smashing. The act of destroying the conduit, yet failing to stop the horror.
This is the definitive, horrifying moment. Her final, fragmented warning, delivered with such urgency, and the abrupt, violent destruction of the very device that brought the entity into her life. It's incredibly potent. It signifies that the knowledge itself is dangerous, that merely possessing it, let alone trying to share it, invites catastrophe, and attempting to warn others, even at the last moment, is utterly futile against a force of this magnitude. It's the sound of hope being extinguished.
And then, the ultimate manifestation of the entity's power, its voice. Now a terrifying hybrid of all 9 hikers, a grotesque chorus of its victims chillingly declares, "We found you," followed by the horrifying, unmistakable sound of sizzling flesh. That final sequence just pulls together everything we've discussed. The entity's ability to consume and mimic, its relentless trans-temporal pursuit, and its horrifying visceral physical effect. It's a complete, horrifying tableau.
The entity assimilating all 9 voices into a single monstrous declaration. That's a truly terrifying culmination of its mimicry. It's no longer just copying one voice, it's a cacophony of its victims. A chorus signifying not just physical consumption, but perhaps a collective consciousness or a ghastly assimilation of their very essences. The sizzling flesh is the ultimate, grotesque confirmation of its destructive thermal power. It leaves no doubt about the victim's immediate and horrific fate. It's a direct, visceral sensory cue designed to shock and horrify, ensuring you're left with a profoundly disturbing image. It emphasizes the complete lack of escape or mercy.
And then Lyudmila's echoing final whisper, a twisted echo of the crate's initial label, but imbued with a far more sinister meaning. Nature abhors a vacuum, but it craves life. But for the concluding loud static stinger. This isn't just a vacuum filler, it's a life craver, actively creating the very void it then occupies.
That final line truly redefines the initial cryptic phrase we encountered, doesn't it? The scientific principle, nature abhors a vacuum, implies a natural rebalancing, a neutral filling of an empty space. But Lyudmila's chilling addition, but it craves life, twists that natural law into something predatory, malevolent, and fundamentally unnatural. It suggests the entity isn't merely occupying a void, but actively creating one by violently consuming life, driven by an insatiable hunger rather than a natural equilibrium. It's a force that doesn't just fill a space, it replaces what was there with its own terrifying, life-devouring presence, leaving behind only emptiness and the inexplicable. It turns a philosophical statement into a predatory declaration.
So to recap the terrifying progression laid out in the Dyatlov tapes, it moves from initial unsettling anomalies like the burning cold and the breathing lights to the full, horrific manifestation of an entity driven by an unnatural, insatiable craving for warmth and life. This source provides its own unique, chilling facts about the Dyatlov Pass incident. The profound thermal anomalies, the insidious vocal mimicry, the utterly grotesque physical melting effect on his victims, and the terrifying idea of the entity as a persistent, transtemporal threat that is unleashed through the very act of discovery.
It fundamentally reframes the real-world mystery. It moves it from a natural disaster or even a human-caused tragedy into something cosmic, deeply unnatural and malevolent. It presents a specific, horrific alternative explanation for a decades-old enigma.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? You've now seen how this particular deep dive takes a notorious mystery and weaves a narrative that challenges conventional understanding. It offers a very specific, terrifying alternative. It asks us to consider what truly lurks in the unknown and what cost might be associated with unearthing forgotten truths.
This deep dive into the Dyatlov tapes forces us to consider not just the unknown, but the unnatural. If nature truly abhors a vacuum, as the crate suggests, and this entity indeed craves life, what does it mean when that vacuum is filled not by natural order, but by something that defies and consumes it, leaving behind only the inexplicable? And how far can an entity's hunger truly reach across time and space, especially when it seems to use the very act of recording of sound as a way to bridge that gap and manifest its terrifying presence? It leaves us with a chilling image, doesn't it, of what it means for something to crave life so intensely that it would defy all natural laws to obtain it, crossing any boundary to feed that hunger.